Good morning, everybody. The scene is still alive and kicking. We've seen yesterday, and we've already heard this morning from our colleague from PTC, Michael. Thank you to Michael again for this wonderful presentation. Now, Bertrandt, of course, is not a common company around the world of virtual and augmented reality. And I think you're going to hear some provocative statements, especially concerning what we've heard from Michael just before, because we think that right now, the whole scene and the whole sector is stuck in some kind of a trap, but we're going to describe it to you in a way. Just to introduce ourselves, my name is Thomas, with my colleague Axel. We are a part of a new business unit at Bertrandt, where we try to put our experience from 40 years of engineering services into the whole world of virtual and augmented reality. So we are not product-driven, we are project-driven, and I think this is going to be pretty interesting for some of you. So I just want to turn the word with my colleague, and perhaps you might introduce yourself as well.
Am I on at the moment? Yes, I'm on. Okay, sorry. Good morning, everybody. Axel Unger, Head of Technology at Bertrandt Next Reality. As said, we want to have a look at the serious use case development regarding our shared experience platform, but also in general having a look at use cases and showcases in general. Where's the clicker? There we go. First, having a look at Gartner's hype cycle, we recognize that virtual and augmented reality technologies aren't part of the hype cycle for 2019 anymore. This obviously means that the technology is grown up and serious, and I completely agree to that. Regarding Gartner's comments, it says the technology is now usable and useful. And I agree to exactly the half of it in this case. Having a look at the technology today, I see a lot of innovative products, robust products, mature systems, mature solutions, and usability, which came over most of the problems we had using the technologies in everyday businesses. For me, having a look at the technology today, being part of that scene for around 15 years, I'm a bit proud what we reached in the last decade in general. Having a look at Gartner's comment as well, I see the useful as halfly reached already, because I still can see a gap between the technology itself and its application in everyday life problems. For me, as an engineering service provider, we still have a gap, or we still see a gap, where we have a problem between the declaration or the explanation of problems of everyday businesses and the application of and the use of the technology in between. And there's still intensely a translation needed. From my understanding, a gap between that exists, not because tech providers don't listen to their customers' problems, even not because customers wouldn't trust the capability of the technologies anymore, as it was probably 10 years ago or 5 years ago. And even not because customers wouldn't be interested in the technology in general. All of us, all of the companies, all of the interests are really, meanwhile, into that scene and into that technology, and is curious what's coming up next. But because there is still a translation needed for the specific complexities of each of the worlds, on the engineering on the one hand, and the technology user on the other hand. That gap still needs intense translation and explanation to one another. The result we see today is very often a presence of pretty good demos, of pretty good showcases, perfectly crafted, creative, innovative at all, but showcases instead of a ubiquity of the technology in our everyday lives, what I guess we all want to reach in the end. So question is, from my side, are we probably caught in a trap of showcases? A showcase trap, so to say, stands for perfect artificially created applications and demos, probably solving problems which aren't really existing. Probably solving problems just being created by introducing the technology itself, or even not showing the effort customers have integrating the technology in their environments. So a very large and a very important point for us is to recognize that customers as well need an understanding of the technology and much more of it to be able to adapt and use the efficiency of the technology itself. So, are we caught in a showcase trap? Are we working for an effective use of the technology, or are we working for the technology itself?
Just to pick it up, it's like I said before, that we think that this is some kind of a trap, because everybody's still looking for this bit of cheese on the trap, which is more product orientated. Now, how can we get to that situation? From our point of view, looking back at the experiences we have with different companies and different enterprises, there is a lack concerning the preparation of possible or potential customers for introducing these new technologies. The moment you have the technology usable and the moment you have a good showcase, you show them a certain kind of effect. And this effect in a proof of concept approach will tell them, well, this is something new and this is something you can do back home in your own company. The moment you try to introduce it to a company or into an enterprise, into a certain area of enterprise, you get the problem that you have to deal with questions that you haven't dealt before. It's like, who's in charge of the data process? The moment the companies are restructuring, you're losing content to certain specific data pipelines. You're losing efficiency in the way you're introducing these new technologies into companies. And this is something to do what I would like to call also the technology overkill. The technology overkill is something, or engineering overkill, where you can have a phrase like, there's sometimes a lot of impressive technology development, but the bang is just not worth the buck. So meaning it's a lot of companies come to you and they tell you want to do something with glasses, something with VR, and you show them something with VR and they are really excited about it and they think that it might have a positive effect concerning their production, concerning their maintenance or training efforts. And I think there have been some very good examples presented by Michael prior to that. We are focusing not on this kind of technology, but we are focusing on the customer. And we would like to ask the question, are all the customers really aware of what they have to do and what kind of requirements they have to adjust in order to get the full 100% effect of the technology that they were dreaming of? Otherwise, it would be some kind of engineering in anticipation of needs which never really materialize. And this is something I think we all have to ask ourselves. What are the problems, like my colleague said before, that we seem to produce by just trying to adopt the technology in the B2B business? Now, how to get out of this technology overkill or this kind of showcase trap? There is a possibility, or there's an approach which has been focusing on in the defense area some 20 years ago. 20 years ago, the big debate in the defense industry sector began, looking at certain armament systems or certain new technologies. And people were looking at it, what does this mean for our capabilities? And all the planning staff started to ask the question, we are not interested in what these systems were purely intended to do, but what they are capable of doing. What is the effect that they have? And that is why we think we have to focus more on an effect-based implementation of all these technologies within the future, because we need to look at specific projects and specific tasks. The moment that they have the specific task, it might also be the answer that you don't need the glass, that you don't need an AR solution, which unfortunately for some of us won't mean a growth in business, but it might be better for a customer. And I think that is where we have to look. The customer is the one who will have a daily experience using these new technologies. If he is not convinced by it, the whole sector will have a downfall. So there's a pure risk in this showcase trap that if we might continue to not look at the implementation process or the process to introduce these technologies within the customer, we might also lose business in the future as well. We need to ask ourselves, what is the difference this technology can have within our company? What is the pure effect that we want to have? What's the advance in the terms of effect? What is the pure essence that we want to achieve when we're trying to establish new business areas with new partners? In the end, I think there has to be a certain awareness on the project and not on the product. So I sometimes regard to this like the Lord of the Rings, that we must get away from thinking that we've got something special in our hands that we just try to sell or implement with our customer, but we have to look at his projects. This means transparency. This means something like lowering the drawbridge in our sector between the companies, but also within the customer. The customer itself often is not in a 100% convinced status, meaning that there are some people who think that VR and AR technologies are very capable of fulfilling an effect, but others, other stakeholders in the process, will be not convinced as much. So let's have a look at the project and not at the product, meaning that in the end we have also to talk about how the customer has to change his way of producing certain things and how to work with it concerning processes and structures in order to get the full effect of the technologies.
So, managing the long run, having a look at how software products or projects contributed to the customers in a historical way, in the last way, in the present days at least, we see a pretty simple process which probably every one of you already had gone through. So, on the one hand, there is a software product, a software module, software developers creating a software product, technology is there, everything is fine. Customers are interested, POCs are created. That's basically normal. So we're going to be POCs, we show the feasibility of the technology, show that we can solve problems with it. So that's where we are. Then introduction is happening, implementation is happening, and in the end, in best case, customer is using the software and the technology and is content with it. Seeing the maturity of the products, seeing the standardization of the products, which is happening at the moment in the last some years, so to say, we see that naturally technology providers trying to leave out that middle part, the part of adapting the solutions to the customer, leaving out the discussion with the customers, using the technology, and pretty often try, naturally as they are service companies and product companies, to directly sell products to the customers. This leads to a need of plug-and-play solutions. The point of project development, the thing of translation between customers and the technology providers, is pretty often at least tried to leave out in the moment. The problem is we see that we are not really at the point where we do have plug-and-play solutions really being applied to real-world problems seamlessly and ubiquitously as it is wished or as we think it is sometimes already. So the big point for us is seeing both sides, the industry itself, the engineering companies itself, the engineering task itself, and on the other hand, the pretty perfect product and software status. We see that there is still the need of project development and an intense talk in between of that. Coming to our shared experience platform, which is a development playground for us. We use it to integrate customers or play ourselves with it, to find and develop use cases fitting to the needs of the customers in their real-world problems. The shared experience platform technically is a Unity-based platform, integrates multiple technologies like AR and VR. It is a multiplayer, multi-user, collaborative environment, and it is a kind of modular setup which allows for real rapid development. So the point is we do have a playground where we integrate and invite the customers to really play with the technology, different technologies, to really have an experience while developing their use cases and their needs, and to formulate their needs to us together in a workshop or in a process way, so to say. The outcome of that and the experience is that not only the products are getting more mature, but the use cases and the needs are much more mature before we go into POC development or integration or implementation at the customer side. So, customer is able to learn, customer is able to see and bridge the problem not understanding what technology does. And on the other hand, we are pretty much more able to understand his needs in this case. So it's pretty important for us to have a talking platform, just a communication platform with the customers using the specific technologies to get, in the end, the best fit solution for the customers. This is why we want standing in the middle of both sides a bit. We want to encourage both our customers to ask questions, to try to play with the technology, to find the possible benefits of certain technologies for their needs, and with that as well to stay curious what's coming up next in this promising sector. But also, we want to encourage us technology providers, as we are as well, to be honest with our customers as well. What they need to do and what effort they have to take to integrate our technology in their processes and daily problems and environments. That's the most important point for us, staying at the point where we are at the moment. Following that credo, I believe that regarding Gardner's comment on being usable and useful, we pretty much are able to grow useful fully as well, not only being usable, what we are at the moment. And for that, I'm happy seeing the close future and bridging that gap. Thanks for your patience and your time.